scorpion peppers on live stream for 10,000 followers, and being a man of his word, he delivered on his promise. But perhaps the most bizarre request he got came from one of his loyal followers who promised to donate money to his channel if he swung around on a stripper pole. While this was a very odd request, Silent Sentry was up for the challenge, but things didn't go according to plan. At the end of his stream, you see this adventurous gamer throw off his headphones and microphone and jump up out of his seat. He makes a rather enthusiastic lunge for the stripper pole already set up and ready to go. As soon as he throws himself onto the pole, he falls down flat, taking the stripper pole down with him. All the while, Pour Some Sugar on Me by Def Leppard is appropriately playing in the background. While this is definitely a side-splitting moment for his followers, he did get loads of concerned comments from his followers wanting to make sure he was okay, which he was just fine. Maybe a bit of a headache, some bruised ribs, and, well, definitely a bruised ego. Silent Sentry went on to report that the stripper pole was not installed properly and he fell off almost instantly. On Reddit, this popular streamer admitted that the accident occurred because of a loose washer, which stops these sorts of stripper poles from shortening. While Silent Sentry has the gaming world and Twitch figured out, he's probably better off to sticking with what he knows and leaving the stripper poles to the professionals. Number 4. But Mom... We all know that while our mothers can be a bit pushy, they often do have our best interest at heart. All they really want is to see us lead a happy life. But all too often, mothers and their children have completely different definitions of what a happy life really is. Rastafarilan was a pretty popular gamer on Twitch and was pretty happy with how his life was turning out. Sleeping late, bong hits, and video games. What more could a 20-something guy ask for? It's reported that Rasta even dropped out of college to pursue streaming on Twitch as a full-time career. Pretty happy lifestyle, especially since Mom paid his way in life. Well, Mom, on the other hand, had a very different view on what a happy life looks like, and it for sure didn't involve video games and Twitch. After noticing her son had racked up her credit card bill with over $400 in game skins, she completely lost it on him, right in the middle of his live stream feed with 120 followers watching. Rasta was embarrassed, to say the least, to get such a tongue lashing from his mother in front of all his friends. She called him every name in the book and demanded he leave her home if he didn't stop streaming, start showing up to class, and get a job. I think it's safe to say that although it wasn't necessarily the life he would have chosen for himself, he did take his mother's threats seriously, and the Rastafarilan empire is now over. While Rasta did close his Twitch account, remnants of his glory days of gaming can still be found online, and we all hope he's doing great for himself. But this video remains on the internet as a lesson for other grown men trying to make it as a gamer and live streamer on Twitch while living at home with Mom. One day she just might turn on you guys. Number 3. Legendary Leia. Legendary Leia, aka Leia May, is a very popular gamer and live streamer on Twitch with a pretty massive following of over 600,000 followers. And, well, as you'll soon learn, it's very apparent as to why. Recently, Leia was banned for 30 days from Twitch for lifting her leg on livestream, showing the world a very clear shot of her, well, private area. While Leia claims this was absolutely unintentional and was the result of an injury, it's pretty hard to believe this showing was anything but. As you watch the clip and how she lifts her leg, it's not in any fashion that someone with an injury would move. And since Leia has a pretty extensive history of these sorts of accidents, Twitch and the online community are a bit skeptical as to her true intentions. She's often seen in up-the-skirt types of shots in her streams, like accidentally dancing by a fan that blows her skirt up around her waist to reveal her thong. Now, maybe this could have been an accident, but it's a bit suspicious that her skirt is flying up at just the right moment for her camera to capture this accident. You have to wonder if this is all, in fact, staged. Leia will often dress in miniskirts and bend over to pick things up, unknowingly, of course, that she's exposing herself to hundreds of thousands of people. In one video, she's outright wearing only a thong and a t-shirt while she bends over to adjust a picture on her wall. Another video shows her falling down while petting her dog. Of course, her skirt flies up in the process. Video after video, she has one tragic accident after another on live stream. While it's difficult to prove if these unintentional incidents were in fact staged, it does help account for her massive following on the Twitch platform and other social media sites as well. Twitch does have a pretty strict policy on this sort of behavior, which is probably why she constantly claims such incidents to be unintentional in nature. Number 2. Japanese man sets house on fire. Okay, so this is probably one of the craziest things to ever happen on live stream. A Japanese man named Yoshihiro Mazda would often do some product reviews and live demonstrations while live streaming and playing Minecraft. In this particular video, Yoshihiro was demonstrating how to refill a lighter with lighter fluid. You see that he accidentally spills some lighter fluid and reaches for a tissue to clean it up. Oh, and did we mention that he's smoking a cigarette during this demonstration? Can we nominate this guy for a Darwin Award? After cleaning up the lighter fluid, Yoshihiro tosses the tissue in the trash without giving it another thought and resorts to just using matches instead. Yoshihiro, who apparently knows nothing about the dangers of fire, accidentally lights the whole box of matches on fire. Shocked, he throws the burning matchbook in the trash can. You know, the one with the lighter fluid soaked tissue. His trash bin immediately catches fire and quickly grows out of control. He tries to put out the fire by removing the trash bag and moving it to a pile of cardboard in the corner. Seriously, dude? When that obviously doesn't work, he attempts to put out the fire by placing a cardboard box on top of the burning trash heap, and after that brilliant idea didn't work either, he then goes to the kitchen to get a small plastic bowl with some water because, yeah, adding that little bit of water will put the fire out, right? When the small amount of water doesn't seem to work, he grabs a dry blanket and begins to fan the fire, of course helping the fire grow stronger by giving it more oxygen. Then he decides to throw the blanket over the massive fire. When all his conventional methods failed, Yoshihiro flees the apartment and calls for help. It's reported that there were 2 other family members in the house who did manage to escape, but not without sustaining some pretty serious injuries. The fire became so massive that it was reported that his elderly neighbor was burned alive in the process, who wasn't discovered for 6 hours after the incident. Number 1. The handicapped streamer. Angel Hamilton, known as Zillion OP on Twitch, was a disabled veteran bound to a wheelchair after a tour of duty. Zillion entertained thousands daily with his live stream gaming on Twitch and had a great following, along with being a member of Twitch's Disabled Streamers Club. Like most Twitch users, Zillion allowed his followers to donate to his stream, often telling his followers that the donations are going toward a new wheelchair for himself. So, thousands of loyal fans were all too eager to help out the vet. Zillion had streamed for over 2 years, collecting thousands of dollars from his followers. Then, in April 2013, Zillion was streaming like normal, and after he thought he had signed out and turned the cameras off, he stood up out of his wheelchair and effortlessly walked off camera. His loyal followers could not believe what they had just witnessed. They loyally followed and supported him for years, often donating money to him, and when they found out that he had been faking his disability this whole time, there was a Twitch uproar, and, well, that's putting it lightly. What's even more disturbing is in the video you can hear his girlfriend's reaction. When Zillion stands up, you can hear her say, "Oh my god," in reaction to her boyfriend's temporary lapse in character. Followers immediately complained to Twitch, who permanently banned Zillion and his girlfriend from Twitch. Followers even started popping up anti-Zillion websites in response to how angry they were that he had the nerve to fake a disability to collect donations from folks. The Twitch community felt misled, and they were out for justice. In response to inquiries made by Kotaku.com, Twitch provided a statement saying Zillion OP did indeed have his channel closed and his partnership contract terminated on the basis of fraud. Twitch even went on to say that they'll be offering refunds to those who subscribe to the channel through Twitch, and they considered it to be a huge slap in the face to the Twitch community and other Twitch members with real disabilities who make up a popular group on Twitch called Able Gamers. Since Twitch closed his account, you can no longer view any of Zillion's past streams, but some did manage to make it onto YouTube before Twitch could remove all his content. While the Twitch community was in an uproar, one member did offer up a defense, saying that maybe he had a condition that would allow some mobility at times, such as multiple sclerosis. However, Zillion's followers quickly replied that he had often talked about how completely immobile he was and would never walk again. Plus, the way he stood up with such ease is not characteristic of someone who occasionally can walk. And there, you have 5 ultimate Twitch fails caught on live stream. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you drop a like and share it, and if you haven't already, subscribe down below to get notified every single day with new videos from Top 5's finest. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, we are out. Native Americans have believed in the power of the Wendigo for many generations. Many accounts tell of victims begging to be killed before they turn. Wendigo psychosis has a wealth of evidence to support it. Victims begin craving human flesh while simultaneously having a paranoid fear of becoming a cannibal themselves. The fact is that these creatures are real, and the damage they do can be catastrophic. We've found 5 Wendigo caught on camera and spotted in real life to help you decide for yourself what you think about this strange phenomenon. Let's begin. Number 5. Possible footage, 2013. When 2 friends decided to explore an abandoned cabin, they may have accidentally stumbled upon a fully turned Wendigo. Many of the stories that tell of Wendigo sightings or killings involve those who have recently succumbed to Wendigo psychosis or were so overcome with remorse that they were able to maintain a semblance of their humanity. The creature seen in this video looks very much like the real deal. Sometimes, if psychosis carries on long enough or a victim is weak enough when possessed, the victim can go through some startling changes. These descriptions vary from case to case, but most describe a large creature covered in short hair standing on 2 legs. What these kids saw was exactly that. Now, given the day and age, we think this video is probably pushing the boundaries of believability just a tad. The video effects and supposed problems are probably just editing tricks or extras making spooky noises. We're still not completely convinced about this one, but have to admit that it could very easily be real. What we do know is that the following stories aren't staged by bored kids for our general amusement. Given that Wendigo psychosis is a real phenomenon, we figured we'd give these kids the benefit of the doubt. Number 4. Swift Runner, 1879. It's interesting to note that the first legal execution that occurred in Alberta, Canada was actually a mistake. Unfortunately for the Cree trapper, who went by the name of Swift Runner, the government at the time couldn't quite comprehend what many people had already figured out. By the latter part of the 1800s and the first few decades of the 1900s, Wendigos were known to be real by the vast majority of Canadians. In northern Alberta at this time, there were a large number of grisly attacks and murders that shocked the province as well as rattling the entire nation. These were, by and large, considered to be examples of Wendigo psychosis. Settlers in Ontario had previously heard about these creatures, but they hadn't been seen out west in these numbers before, so little was known about them or how to protect oneself. Swift Runner's story was especially gruesome. At one point in 1879, he found his way to a Catholic mission in Edmonton, Alberta. Those who he met were shocked that he suffered constant nightmares whenever he slept. When he mentioned that he was the only member of his family who had survived starvation the previous winter, their shock became suspicious. Witnesses say the man was well fed and showed no signs of any malnutrition whatsoever. Upon further investigation, the police found that he had gruesomely murdered 8 family members one by one and ate them over the course of a few months when an especially harsh winter led to them almost starving. He still maintained his innocence, saying that he was possessed by a Wendigo. He recounted the experience and said he was extremely sorry for what he had done. The problem was that Wendigos craved human flesh, and, well, he couldn't help himself. Every bite led him to need more and more, developing an insatiable hunger. We may never know exactly what made Swift Runner murder his family, but the evidence does point to Wendigo psychosis. Interestingly, this is the only case we were able to find that told of a Wendigo who was able to recall their experiences after the fact. Most of the time, the stories we hear come from Wendigo hunters, and the overwhelming majority of these involve these supposed victims begging for death before they are fully turned. Number 3. Little Jack, 1894. A tale told by a trapper in Kenora, Ontario, which has been a well-known Wendigo hotspot throughout the past few centuries, concerns a hunting party that set out in 1894. 2 of the men were tourists visiting from Chicago. The father and son duo, by the name of Sears, had traveled by train to Ontario in order to hunt for moose, although they both thought that they could do much better than a simple moose. They met up with a guide named Little Jack who offered to take them on an expedition through the area surrounding the Mattawa River. Little Jack was a local Algonquin and was known throughout the area as one of the best trackers around. His specialty was finding moose and other big game, so he was an obvious choice for the Seers. After a couple days of travel, the team entered Quebec. They had seen many moose, but both the Seers were hoping to head home with a more impressive trophy and opted to push further into the bush. Little Jack had heard of many bear sightings around a nearby lake, but also warned the foreigners that there had been further reports of a massive and unknown creature lurking there too. The pair assumed that their guide was being overly cautious, but agreed to a few basic rules that Little Jack insisted they adhere to. First, he stated that nobody should attempt to land at the northern or western edges of the lake, and that the two were to set up camp at predetermined locations. Their guide would then travel between the two regularly to ensure their safety, and all would leave long before sundown. He made it clear that both men were to stay put until it was time to leave. After an unsuccessful day, Little Jack approached Sears Sr. and told him to start packing up. It was then that he noticed Sears Jr. paddling across the lake. His father called to him, at which time Little Jack, suddenly frantic, barked at him to stay quiet. He then began furiously paddling towards Sears Jr., who had landed on the far bank. The Sears boy dashed into the woods after yelling that he had seen something large in the brush. Seconds later, the boy tore out of the trees and made it to his canoe before a massive creature standing on two legs leapt out and ripped his head off in one clean stroke. Horrified, Sears Sr. attempted to help, but was forced to leave by Little Jack. Jack explained later that the man's son had, unfortunately, been killed by a Wendigo. When news made its way back down south, the tone was understandably one of panic, although many simply couldn't believe it was true. Number 2. Jack Fiddler, 1907. Jack Fiddler was the chief and shaman of a particular subsect of the Gish-Kishigowan Dudum of the Anishinaabe tribe, known sometimes as the Sucker People. His attempted arrest by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police and subsequent suicide made headlines back in 1907. The report that follows led to the insistence of the Canadian government that the tribe follow Canadian laws from then on. While the government claimed that Jack should be charged with murder, he and his people were adamant that the government had made a big mistake. At that time, the stories of the Wendigo had been morphed into urban legends, and the authorities of the day didn't believe in them anymore. Furthermore, at the time, Jack Fiddler and the Sucker People were one of the few remaining autonomous native tribes at the time, with almost all others previously being amalgamated into the greater nation of Canada. Jack had never shied away from his belief in Wendigos, and his community revered him as a masterful hunter of the strange creatures. He claimed to have killed 14 in total. Many of these were sent by the enemy, he claims, although he still had to end the lives of some of his own after they succumbed to the sickness. After he dispatched his brother's daughter-in-law, who was suffering from Wendigo psychosis, the RCMP rode over and demanded his surrender. Jack initially escaped, only to hang himself days later. His brother, Joseph, was sentenced to death for his complicity in the supposed crime. He pleaded that both he and his brother were always called upon by their people to help them euthanize the sick, as well as those under the effects of Wendigo psychosis, and that both were unaware of any Canadian laws. They had been observing a long-standing tradition that was absolutely crucial to the well-being of their tribe and had done nothing wrong. After a number of appeals, he was released, but the order was delayed and came late, 3 days after he was put to death. What is most disturbing is that the people of the time, both white and native, all knew about the threat of Wendigo psychosis. The Hudson Bay Company kept records of many such experiences, and all Canadians at the time knew of the rumors. Many of their people were turned when things went badly, and sometimes survivors were left to tell their stories, although not many were able to consider themselves that lucky. Number 1. Vince Lee, 2008. Considering the rest of our list is fairly outdated, this item may come as a bit of a shock to those who missed it. The mainstream media, while covering the story briefly, missed some obvious signs that Lee was under the influence of Wendigo psychosis when he completely lost his mind on a bus from Alberta to Manitoba. Lee, who delivered newspapers and worked at McDonald's, showed no previous signs of distress, and everyone who knew him said that he was a great guy, if somewhat quiet. Nobody could have prepared themselves for the scene that unfolded when Lee pulled out an immense hunting knife and began repeatedly stabbing 22-year-old Tim McLean, who was caught completely by surprise, powerless to stop his attacker. Lee supposedly stabbed McLean over 50 times, and one witness said that when he looked up, Lee had almost cut his victim's head clean off. The insane and rage-filled attack left everyone around him terrified, with nowhere to run except through the mayhem. What sets this story apart from most other brutal murders is that police found a bag in Lee's pocket after they arrested him that contained pieces of his victim's flesh, including part of his nose and ear. Curiously, Edmonton's local newspaper, the Edmonton Sun, had only 10 days prior published an article that contained an interview regarding Wendigo psychosis, adding an extra element to this mystery. What makes this tale even more depressing is that many of the other passengers on that bus have been irreparably damaged by the scene that unfolded. Lee's animal intensity and the brutal and vicious way he carried out the murder have haunted most, and they say they will never forget hearing Tim McLean scream. For his gruesome crime, Lee was sentenced to spend a year in a maximum security psychiatric facility, but was not charged with murder after he pled insanity. Indeed, after the attack started, the bus driver yelled at Lee to stop stabbing McLean. Lee, who was almost completely unresponsive during and after the attack, supposedly stopped and maintained his composure just long enough to cry out, "Get emergency!" before he was overcome once again. It seems like he must have been aware of what was happening, but completely unable to do anything about it. This marks one of the first documented Wendigo attacks in the better part of a century, and we can only hope that it was isolated. And there, you have 5 Wendigo caught on camera and spotted in real life. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you drop a like and share it, and if you haven't already, subscribe down below to get notified every single day with new videos from Top 5's finest. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, we are out. Man has always been horrified by the uncanniness that mutations can create. It may look human, but you may still ask yourself, is it? Whether it's a baby born with cyclopia or an animal born with 2 heads, these occasions have always been omens, signs of bad things to come. But what are we really scared of? How would you feel if you saw a mutant, and what do you think its appearance would mean? These are 5 mutants caught on camera and spotted in real life. Let's begin. Number 5. Mutant in Portuguese desert. This strange creature was found in a desert in Portugal, where it was recorded by witnesses. At first glance, this creature may appear to resemble a man, but upon closer inspection, it looks very different and almost animalistic. The tan creature appears tall, with incredibly long arms that end in muscular shoulders. It slouches as it walks and almost looks like a classic interpretation of a caveman or Neanderthal. Just what is this creature, and what's it doing there? It may be an undiscovered anthropoid cryptic, or it may have more terrifying human roots. Could it be that this creature is a human being mutated by inbreeding, a disease, or exposure to dangerous material? We may never know. Number 4. Mutant found dead on road. While man has always experimented with their food supply to create bigger stocks that taste better, it wasn't until recently that man decided to play God by directly altering the genotype of any specific creature. Of course, the technology was never available to us until now. It's known that companies such as Monsanto perform potentially dangerous experiments to alter the DNA of plants using animal materials. Could it be possible that a company has transcended legality in order to produce a more perfect meat? It seems so based on this video, which seems to capture a strange, pig-like creature which has been branded and inspected. Number 3. Mutant in sewer. There's something unsettling about sewers, bathrooms, outhouses, or anywhere that nature calls. We understand instinctively that feces poses great danger to ourselves, and thus we avoid it, and if technology allows, we send it away using sewer systems. Not everyone is afraid of it though. There have been recorded instances of camps springing up in sewers hidden beneath cities where the vagrant and outcasts know they will not be bothered. In some cities that are hundreds, if not 1,000 years old, how far back could these societies go, and what strange mutations might generations of exposure cause? This strange humanoid creature found in one sewer may show us. Number 2. Mutant pig. Not all mutations are caused by exposure. Most are merely products of genetic chance, producing losers of a genetic lottery doomed to live short lives defined by suffering. This piglet is one such beast. This pig was bred in China, where people immediately noticed its horrifying face. The face of the poor creature has been compared to that of a man's because of its flat profile and strange nose that some have compared to a penis. Due to the strange shape of its face, it seems to struggle for breath as its tongue hangs out of its misshapen mouth, opening its mouth wide to take in breaths in what can be described as a noiseless scream. Truly, nature's fail-safes weren't good enough for this piglet. Number 1. Mutant animal in Chernobyl. The Chernobyl disaster was the single largest nuclear disaster in the world's recorded history. If you're unfamiliar with it, here's a quick refresher. In 1986, a nuclear reactor in the Soviet Union began to fail during a safety test. Several design flaws in the plant caused it to malfunction, resulting in an explosion and several fires that spread dangerous radioactive material around the area in what is now Ukraine. While many speculative works, such as the Stalker franchise, explore the idea of Chernobyl as a nuclear wasteland full of morbid, mutated monsters, the Chernobyl site is in fact quite idyllic. If you had no idea, you'd never be able to tell it apart from any other forest, until you succumb to radiation poisoning. There are some mutants though, such as this strange, headless or necklace creature running free through the forest, safe until man returns to reclaim what was lost and build anew. And there, you have 5 mutants caught on camera and spotted in real life. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you drop a like and share it, and if you haven't already, subscribe down below to get notified almost every single day with new videos from Top 5's finest. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, we are out. Twitch is a famous streaming site where gamers upload their streams, but little did you know, there's a dark side. Numerous ghost encounters, hauntings, and real-life suicides have occurred on Twitch. Many bizarre moments have been documented. There are also a lot of pranks performed by streamers who sometimes tend to lose touch with the outside world. But if any of these videos are pranks, they were clearly taken just a little too far. Here are 5 instances when Twitch turned from stream to scream. Let's begin. Number 5. Self-shutting doors. Rubsy is a famous streamer on Twitch who was asked to take care of a pet while a friend was away. But arriving at his friend's house, his life was about to change forever. He began streaming a gaming video, and then things got out of control. The door behind him slammed shut, which caused Rubsy to jump out of his chair screaming. But the hall was completely empty. Finally, when other things in the house begin moving on their own, Rubsy decides not to be rubsed out and hightails it for home. Number 4. Haunted live video. This haunted live video of a Twitch streamer is simply bizarre. There's a knock on a door that catches the streamer off guard. He asks a friend if he also heard it and then continues the video. Later, he hears the knock again and tells the audience that he's feeling goosebumps. While going to check on his dog, the streamer gets a Skype message with a small beep. The video ends when the camera, microphone, and his wiring fall from the stand onto the table with a loud boom, and the terrified streamer tries to cut the live feed as quickly as he can. Number 3. Match your IQ. In this video, a Japanese streamer destroys his house in a manner so mundane and avoidable, it's hard to believe the video was staged. While playing Minecraft, the streamer, Daisuke, tries to get a lighter to work, but to no avail. He uses a match to light a cigarette, but foolishly throws the match in a pile of trash. Soon, the matchbox, then the entire bag of litter, is set ablaze. Nothing Daisuke tries to put out the fireworks, and he soon must flee for his own safety. Number 2. Streamer suffers a seizure. It is said that some gamers have died from lack of sleep or simple dehydration because they got so caught up playing a video game that they forgot to sleep or drink a glass of water. Lothar had a slightly different fate. He's playing a card game when his head begins to hurt. He becomes unresponsive, seizes, and faints while the camera is rolling, then falls to the floor and emits a loud and painful moan. Lothar's wife came busting through the door and immediately called the ER, then she tries to give him CPR with no luck. This gamer's ultimate fate is mysterious, but fans felt helpless that there was nothing they could do. Number 1. Suicide Solution. On March 3rd, a streamer called Ice Poseidon decided to film his trip to Hollywood, but the event he witnessed was anything but an act. He was walking around Hollywood Boulevard with his friend when they noticed that a crowd had gathered. To everyone's horror, there's a man on a balcony ready to jump. Ice Poseidon's viewers went crazy as he ran in a fight-or-flight response. Then, a loud scream can be heard in the background. The leaping man had just hit the ground and died. You can bet that Mr. Poseidon wishes he'd gone to visit the LA Strip instead, where heavy metal bands only sing about death and mayhem. And there, you have 5 scariest moments caught on Twitch.tv. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you drop a like and share it, and if you haven't already, subscribe down below to get notified almost every single day with new videos from Top 5's finest. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, we are out.
So how is it going, Top 5ers? Hope you're having a good damn day. You're probably asking yourself, or not,